Me I go get a whole heap of hate comments for that one, yeah. But me have to talk truth to the Jamaica. We have to stop pretending. Out of many one people is a bloody lie. And this land belongs to African blood, not contract workers or colonial pets. Out of many one people. Bull crap. The motto is a graveyard with makeup. A lie printed in gold leaf to hide the plantation soil still under our fingernails. So today me I go burn the lie all the way to the ground, and enough I wanna go vex with me. Let's start with the Tainos. First here, first slaughtered. Yes, the Tainos were here, but stop romanticizing it like them still around things. They were exterminated, genocided, murdered in mines, babies bashed on rocks, women raped by Spanish beasts. And by the 1600s, they were dead, systematically erased. So don't throw them name in my face when me start talk about land. Because this is no longer Taino soil. This is African blood soil. And if them spirits still there, if the Taino spirits still there, me know say them would agree with me. The African fought back. The African survived. The African deserved the land. Now let's talk about us Africans. We did not arrive. We were kidnapped, dragged, tortured, raped, and bred like livestock. But still, we built this damn island. We planted canes while bleeding from our backs. We raised children under chains and still taught them how to sing. We survived buck breaking and still birthed warriors. We didn't migrate. We were kidnapped, sold, whipped, ripped from our gods, and still resurrected them. So don't you ever put us in the same sentence as contract workers. Now let's talk about Cromanti, the name they fear to speak. Maroon is a effing nickname the colonizers gave to try to dehumanize Cromantis. Cromanti is the real name. That's the spiritual bloodline. Queen Nanny wasn't a rebel. She was a general, a war priestess. Kujo, Kojo, and Kwao, they were not slaves. They were Akan field commanders reborn in bush. Yes, Babylon feared them so much they made treaties. But then turn around and had them hunt their own people. That's right. Some Cromantis were forced to capture other enslaved Africans. That's history. It hurts. But it's the truth. Even among warriors, colonialism poisoned everything. Now let's examine Indians and Chinese. Either we gonna come clean, I'm wanting to stay silent. Tap on no nice. Me done with this equality gaslighting. Let's be real and raw. Indians came in 1845 after slavery done. Yes, they were exploited, but they came with contracts, not colors, not chains. They had names. We had numbers. Chinese came in 1854. Struggled, yes, but they built empires, not under whips and lash and chains. And today, they run every wholesale, every plaza, every economic gate. While the descendants of enslaved Africans still beg work in their own country. So don't tell me out of many, when we were the only ones that were fed to dogs, raped for generations, and then still expected to suck it up and move on. Out of many, the motto is a frigging spell. And it's designed to fool you. Out of many, one people is a mental sedative. It sounds good, so you stop fighting. It sounds fair, so you stop asking for land. It is a linguistic plantation, keeping black people docile while their inheritance is sold off to foreign investors, while white developers buy out rivers, while churches own acres they got from slave masters. And while our grandparents die on capture land and uptown drink rum of stolen acres. One people, which one? So who does Jamaica belong to? Let me give it to you raw. Jamaica do not belong to the politicians. Jamaica do not belong to the planters' great-grandchildren. Jamaica does not belong to the Indian dynasties. Jamaica do not belong to the Chinese import kings. Jamaica certainly don't belong to Queen Elizabeth ghost. And it do not belong to the Anglican Church. This land, Jamaica land, belongs to the African mother who breastfed Massa's picnic while hers starved. The bushman that slit throat for freedom in the night. The enslaved that died nameless but still arise up in us. The Cromantes, the field Africans, and the unbroken warriors. Me now wave no flag. Now we have truth. Don't sell me unity when me still have to pay rent pan stolen land. Don't sell me togetherness when our dead is still buried in unmarked slave pits. Do and quote no matter to me when black people are still treated like strangers in our own country. This is our land, bought with screams, watered with tears, named in drum beats, and buried in bones. We don't need permission because we are the owners. We are the soil, and we are the fire. And if Babylon can't accept that, we just have to go make it burn.
14 Rastafari brethren that have done serious iconic work for the Rastafari movement. These brethren was abandoned by the elders, sold out by the elders, and all the musicians to the ice bidder in Babylon. Now today, Rastafari is being practiced globally, and in a sense, these brethren, these 14 forgetting brethren, are who make the Rastafari, whether they want to call it a religion, a faith movement, whatever name you want to apply to it. These 14 men is who make Rasta becomes a global entity in terms of paralleling with other religious practice. Now, when one talk about Rastafari, one mistakenly attribute the rights and practices of the Rastafari to Bob Marley, mainly, and then to the musicians that locks up. But this is so far from the truth because none of the musicians, as we know today, have done anything to benefit the Rastafari movement. If anything, the musicians is who water down. For example, the original foundation of the Rastafari movement was an anti-Babylon movement, anti-the system movement. And during the late 50s, 60s, and 70s, it was the vanguards of the Rastafari movement that took a stand in Jamaica for its freedom and liberation, and at some stage took the struggle from Jamaica to the heart of Babylon, wherever they find Babylon. In those days, it was confrontation was the order of the day. Now, I'm going to have my good brother, Jason Black, break down the 60s and 70s treading of the liberation movement. Because I always said it was us against them globally. Meaning that wherever you, in the 60s and 70s, the black liberation struggle was one struggle. Whether you're on the island, you're in England, you're in Africa, or you're in the America. It was one struggle. Us struggling for our liberation. Now, in the heart of the struggle...
All right, Larry Hoover's sentence has been commuted federally. The federal sentence for Larry Hoover has been commuted by President Trump. The federal sentence was commuted. And I want to deal with that aspect of this here. Because going back to the 50s and 60s, and then the 70s, you have a number of black men. You got to understand that, like every other group in America, Martin Scorsese can make movies about white gangs, quote unquote, protecting their turf being the neighborhood. Please remember, with the Italian mafia, they go around shaking down store owners, quote unquote, their own people. So there's always been this dichotomy. Look it up. There's always been this split vision of perspective handed out by Hollywood and the corporate media. The white corporate media has always said, well, I mean, they were protecting the neighborhood and looking out for the people. And that's the way that's portrayed. When it comes to the black gangs, however, that is what happens when it comes to the black gangs. You were told there's absolutely nothing good about that, but you're talking about community organizations that really sprang up as a result of segregation, the American apartheid system, and victimizing us. So, of course, you're going to have this natural reaction to that. And from there, they may be corrupted, but then again, that's the government's job, is to do that. Now, in the case of Larry Hoover, there would be people who would be upset. Well, Jason, what about the black gangster disciples? Well, Jason, what about folk getting killed, or this, that, and the other? And I would like to address a few things here. I would like to address a few things in that regard. And some of you may not like what you're going to hear, but I'm going to be brutally honest about that. Well, first of all, let's deal with the commutation itself. Symbolic political gestures. So President Trump, at the federal level, President Trump commuted Larry Hoover's sentence. He's at ADX Florence. So, I mean, locked up with the baddest of the bad for decades now. And Trump commuted a sentence. Now, that doesn't deal with the state level. You're going to have to get Governor Pritzker of Illinois to pardon him at the state level in order for him to be released from prison, because as far as the feds are concerned, he's been commuted there, but the state, he still has charges from the state. So now he's not going to be a free man until Governor Pritzker does something in his regard. But, you know, for anybody out there, I want to deal with the people who wring their hands. I want to deal with some of the people who wring their hands, because you see, there are folks who don't like my perspective on things and don't like my ideology on things, because what you need to understand is that our freedom was won for us by the gangsters. What? Oh, you're not going to like that. People, I don't know what fantasy world you might have immigrated in from, but understand something. Our freedom has never been won for us by the clergy and the pointy-headed academics and the Michael Eric Dysons and damn sure not the Mark Lamont Hills. Our freedom was not fought for nor won for by the academics and the soft niggas. I damn sure did.
Deal with it, nigga.
You know I'm about to get down with it. Our freedom was not won for us by the clerks and the clerics and the pencil pushers and the bookkeepers and the academics and the professors with their highfalutin speeches and the Cornell West. Our freedom was fought for in the streets by the gangsters. It was fought for in the streets by the hustlers. It was fought for in the streets by, as Dr. John Henry Clark called it, the street cats, the pool hall cats. Those were the ones who did it. Malcolm X was not raised in some upper middle class bourgeoisie family of the talented tent and the Jack and Jill Society and the Boulay. The Boulay are too busy getting manicures and pedicures, and I'm talking about the men. The Roland Martins, you run up on him and the nigga turns straight Karen. That ain't fighting for nothing. He ain't fighting for nothing but another square meal. In his case, a round one. No, our freedom has always been fought for us by the people with their feet on the ground in the street. And they got to be about that life. Soft niggas ain't gonna throw no blows. Soft niggas ain't gonna hold the line. Soft niggas gotta go to work in the morning, and that's their primary concern. The fellas who they live that street life, those are the fellas holding it down for the block, for the neighborhood, for their turf, for that area. And nobody gonna come rolling in the wrong way. Period. That's who fought for and won our freedom for us. Whether you go all the way back to Nat Turner, Jason, he was a reverend, he was a street dude. Denmark Vesey, street dudes. Harriet Tubman, peace be upon her. That was a street chick. Straight street. I'm talking about a black woman walking around with a gun on her hip during antebellum slavery. Nigga, that's gangster as he gets. It don't get no more gangster than that. And I'm gonna hurt your damn feelings. Harriet Tubman's pistol was not for the white supremacists. It was for any niggas with her that got cold feet or was thinking about snitching. She got off that plantation. She ain't going back. So if you get cold feet, don't worry, the rest of you gonna be cold too. But if you get down with us, this the way it's going. Ain't no backing out. Ain't no backing out. We ain't gonna have you go back and go snitch to them people about what we doing. You either go free or you go dead. One way or the other. She had dealt with house niggas. She had dealt with coons and sambos. She had dealt with that. And she knew how you deal with them. And there was no longer a white supremacist government to protect you. something treasonous and treacherous to your people here, your people gonna take care of this. Let's be very, very clear. The biggest gangsters on the planet is the American government. What? Oh, it is what it is. What you gonna tell me? Are you going to tell me that Larry Hoover was responsible for the murder of Andrew Howard? You want to go there? Let's go there. You want to do that? Let's do that. I duck nothing. What did Andrew Howard allegedly do? Andrew Howard was allegedly stealing. He was allegedly stealing. He knew too much. He knew a bunch. He was sneaking in. He was abusing. They told him, hey, bruh, you know the rules. You know the rules. And he just said, I'm freestyling. And they said, okay, bruh, it don't go this way. And you know that. So he turns up unalive. And I'm not saying that for you two. I'm just saying that as being biologically accurate here. He turns up no longer living. And maybe with 6 holes in his head. He turns up no longer living and with 6 holes in his head. So needless to say, his days of stealing are over. His days of stealing came to a rather abrupt end.
We were penetrated. We were penetrated. Now, who penetrate us? We were penetrated by integrating an integration led by one, the musician integrate themselves and start to go on tour. And when they go on tour, they integrate themselves with Babylon. And I'm talking about now every one of our musicians. There is no exception, none. Every one of them sold us out. At the time, in the early days of the reggae music, many Rasta elders was against reggae music. Until at some stage, Marty McPlunner integrate the movement by allowing Dr. Yarny to come study and get her anthropologist degree and becomes the highest authority on Rastafari. She turned around and work on Bongo Watto. And then you have all these white people coming to Jamaica now to study Rastafarian and integrate Rastafarian, because Dr. Yarny was the person that took Bongo Watto, Bongo Sam Brown, you name it, Brakumi, you name it. She took all the elders at one stage and tour to various universities in the world until we, the vanguard, have become successful with our struggle. And when we call for the elders to come now and help us to set up struggle, set up programs to fight Babylon, all the elders came to the US and turned their back on us. So today, Rasta have become a runaway train that cannot be stopped, out of control, and it's heading now to be a church system to replace Babylon church system. So now, today you find Rastafari is the new religion, and the Rastas have replaced everything in the Bible through the eyes of Haile Selassie. Now, as you know, I'm a man that speak it like it is. I speak in the everyday tongue. But I will call upon my brethren, Gilly priests, who have a program scheduled for August 17 to address the deportee stigma. At this time, I would like to point out that the 14 brethren that shook up Babylon, all these brethren was deported from the US to their respectful origin as deportee. And as such, these brethren is now disappear from the radar and living in silence. And it's Ijaboni and Gilly that is actually now ruffling the feathers to stand up for the rights of deportee. Now, we have been speaking, I and Gilly have been speaking about Rastafari and Rastafari right